Hello, everybody. All around the world, we stand on the threshold of a new age of discovery. Everything from published Navy UFO patents to undiscovered buried treasure in the United States. Could you be the one to discover one of these amazing treasures? Maybe it's even in your own backyard. Hi, everybody. I'm Jack Cary, and this is Threshold. All right, welcome back, everybody. I thought we would cover undiscovered buried treasure in the United States. Summertime is coming, and with it, treasure hunting weather, and it is something I have always been interested in. And I've been interested in missing treasures here in the U.S. for a while, and I've compiled a list of some of these treasures that are perhaps the ones that are the low-hanging fruit, the ones that it won't require as much effort, I think, to finally discover, and are worth millions and millions of dollars. Let's pull up the list and let's take a look at what you might be able to find this summer. All right. Let's start with a man named Forrest Fenn and his deadly Rocky Mountain Challenge. About a decade ago, a man named Forrest Fenn, 85-year-old, hid what experts estimate to be a $5 million prize of gold, jewelry, and artifacts in a small bronze chest somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. In his cryptic poem, The Thrill of the Chase, Fenn dropped clues as to the whereabouts of this hidden treasure and inspired thousands of adventurers and treasure hunters to go searching. Sadly, some have even died trying, and in June of 2020, the treasure was finally found by a man who chose not to be named, perhaps understandably, as he was suddenly $5 million richer. On his website, Fenn wrote, "It was under a canopy of stars in the lush forested vegetation of Rocky Mountains, and had not moved from the spot where I hid it more than 10 years ago." Instead of a poem, Fenn might have considered putting the message of his hidden treasures into a painting instead. So this particular first one on the list shows you that even in this day and age, one of these amazing treasures could be found. In this case, it was a wealthy sort of philanthropist kind of a guy who wanted to inspire people to go to the great outdoors and to explore. And, as I said, I think it was 2 or 3 different people died trying to find the treasure. So I don't know if Mr. Fenn holds himself accountable for any of that or not. Another one that's interesting for us to cover is the Beale Ciphers. So this is a really interesting missing treasure. And Thomas J. Beale, as his name, came across an abandoned mine, and it was full of gold, silver, and jewels. And this was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, during the early 1800s. And Beale, along with 30 other adventurers, transported the goods to Bedford County, Virginia, and buried them. He then created 3 ciphers, 3 encoded letters, detailing what the treasure was, where it was located, and the contact information of the people that helped him bury it. Beale put the letters in an iron box and gave them to a friend, instructing him to only open them if he hadn't returned in 10 years. The ciphers were eventually published in 1885, but only one has been cracked. The second cipher, detailing the fabulous contents of the hidden treasures, has never been. Its cipher key, the Declaration of Independence. So his ciphers were based on the actual Declaration of Independence. And so far, investigators have been unable to crack either of the two remaining ciphers and actually find the treasure. And this is one of the most famous cold cases out there as far as treasure hunting goes. So if you're a cryptographer or somebody that likes to work with, codes and can have some sort of, if you have some sort of program, something like that, you want to try to break these codes, that would be something fun to do. Maybe somebody out there is working on it. Another really interesting treasure that most people have never heard of is called the Ted Binyan's Nevada Stash. And there was a wealthy casino heir, and his name was Ted Binyan. And he's been dead for a couple of decades, but his legacy lives on in the form of a silver collection said to be worth several $1 million. It's rumored to be buried somewhere on the property of his Pahrump, Nevada ranch. Binyan was allegedly murdered in 1998 at the age of 55 by his girlfriend and her lover. The duo, however, these two, they were acquitted for murder on appeal. They were convicted, however, on charges related to silver theft, the motive being his collection of silver items worth several $1 million at the time and now worth far more. Some believe all the silver has been recovered, but others think a buried fortune of hidden treasures remains somewhere on the property. So, and this is one of those cases where maybe the new property owners are going to come across that. The interesting thing about it is that it's silver, and a lot of people have speculated that the price of silver will grow exponentially in the future because of its industrial use in things like solar panels and electric cars. I'm from this area of the Ozarks on this next treasure, and it's called the Old Ozark Treasure Cave. And it's one of the Ozarks' biggest mysteries. And this is an old Spanish treasure cave in the northwest corner of Arkansas. And it's believed to hold hidden treasures buried by Spanish conquistadors fleeing from Native Americans over 350 years ago. The treasure itself has not yet been found. Artifacts from the time period, such as helmets, weapons, and armor, have all been found in the area. So there's still hope. There are some amazing treasures out there, guys. And this is one of them. Just a few of the relics from a find like that would be worth millions of dollars. Still yet another treasure that most people have never heard of that's out there to be found. It's called Mosby's treasure, and it's somewhere in Virginia. And in 1863, a Confederate ranger named John Singleton Mosby and his band of guerrilla raiders were able to sneak 10 miles into Union territory and capture more than 40 Union troops at the Fairfax, Virginia courthouse, all without firing a single shot. Mosby reportedly left with a burlap sack stuffed with what was then valued at $350,000 worth of gold, silver, jewelry, candlesticks, and other family heirlooms, all of them taken from the homes of local plantation owners. On the way back to the Confederate line, Mosby was warned that Union soldiers were nearby and opted to bury the sack between two trees, marking the spot with his knife. Later, he sent 7 of his men back to retrieve it, but they were captured and executed. As far as we know, Mosby never went back, so the hidden treasures could still be out there. So that is a very interesting treasure that's out there. And if it was worth $350,000 back then, you can just imagine. An interesting thing about this treasure is that a lot of these Confederate Rangers, as they were called, and Jesse James was one of them, were actually agents of what was called the Knights of the Golden Circle, or the KGC. And a lot of these agents, like Jesse James, were robbing places to take back to the South so that they could reinitiate the war in some manner as the future unfolded. And a lot of them got buried in different caches all through the South. And this is apparently one of those caches. But the actual money itself was intended to go back to another Confederate effort, if you will. And they had some strange stuff, like they had plotted to take over half of South America and all kinds of stuff. So if you've never heard of the KGC, it's an interesting thing to look up. And if you like the ocean, here are some really interesting ones for you to take a look at when you're on vacation. Blackbeard's, I'm sorry, Atlantic Coast Treasure Trove. From 1716 to 1718, guys, the pirate Blackbird traversed the West Indies and Atlantic coast of North America, attacking ships laden with gold, silver, and other treasures from Mexico and South America on their way back to Spain. Blackbeard is said to have boasted about his buried treasure, but never trusted anyone enough to divulge the secret location. He was finally defeated and executed in 1718. Treasure hunters have been searching for Blackbeard's hidden treasures ever since, seeking everywhere from Virginia's Chesapeake Bay to the Caribbean and Cayman Islands. Unlike Blackbeard's loot, these incredible underwater treasures have never been found. There's a whole list of them. A list of treasures that have been found, but not Blackbeard's loot. This is an interesting one that's still out there to be found, and might be one that the average person can go looking for. This is called the East Idaho Stagecoach Robbery Treasure. And somewhere in East Idaho is a bloody treasure worth millions of dollars in gold. And that was in the East Idaho News. In 1865, apparently, the Overland Stage Line carrying gold in its cargo was held up by Pickett Coral Gang, a pretty prolific stagecoach robbery syndicate. Now, if the robbery took place and there's some confusion, the gang probably hid the loot in the Portneuf Canyon. It's very interesting, but it even gives you an area, Portneuf Canyon, to actually take a look at. There is, if you're taking a vacation to Hawaii this summer and you're that lucky, here is an interesting one for you. It is the pirate treasure at Hawaii's Palamano Point. Palamano Point, an exposed reef break off Hawaii's Big Island, might just be the site of over $5 million in pirate treasure. According to the book Hawaii's Unsolved Mysteries, Captain Thomas Cavendish was a 16th century English privateer whose career may have eventually led him to bury some of his extensive silver and gold riches at the point. Modern-day explorers have tried to locate the hidden treasures or even the wreckage of the captain's ship. So far, all of the endeavors have failed. But any excuse for a holiday to Hawaii, right? So that's a great one, guys. If you're going to Hawaii and you're going to be on the Big Island, why not do a little bit of treasure hunting? Could be fun. So, and I'm going to end with one that's really interesting because this involved one of the biggest mobsters that America's ever seen, and it has a very interesting, colorful American history behind it. But one of America's most famous gangsters, John Dillinger, spent the spring 1934 hiding at the Little Bohemia Lodge near Manitowoc Waters in Wisconsin. After a phone call tripped them off to the gang's location, FBI agents raided the lodge but ended up in a shootout with Dillinger and his men. In the confusion, Dillinger apparently escaped out the back door with a suitcase containing $200,000 in small bills. The legend says that he buried the suitcase in the backyard of the lodge. And as he was shot 3 months later in Chicago, the hidden treasure remains in Wisconsin to this day. So if you're in Wisconsin, there is a really good treasure to go looking for. You can just imagine, what that would be worth today, just the history of it. But that's what I have for you today, guys. Join me next week. We will step up to the threshold of yet another fun and amazing discovery. And this summer, have some fun. Go out and do some treasure hunting. I will definitely be doing that.
You've been watching Threshold with Jack Cary, a Catskill Appalachian Research Collective production. For more information on this program and others like it, remember to like, share, and subscribe to CARC Universal today. To join the conversation on our Facebook group, become a member of the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective Facebook group. CARC. Relentless.